In the darkness, a lighter flared up. Man Paul woke up from his coma, only to find himself inside a coffin. He desperately called for help, but no one responded. Paul tried to push the upper board of the coffin with his body, but found it was of no use at all. At this moment, sand suddenly leaked into the coffin, clearly indicating that he was buried under the desert. Paul realized that he could only rely on himself to get out. First, he used the nails inside the coffin to untie the rope on his hands, and then continued to try to push the upper board with his hands. But no matter how hard he tried, the board didn't budge at all. Just as he was about to give up, a vibration from his phone at his feet caught his attention. He struggled to hook the phone with his foot and bring it to his hand. Paul immediately dialed 911 for help and described his situation. It turned out that to support his family, Paul had become an employee of CRT, a company responsible for transporting supplies in Iraq. But today, they were attacked by local armed forces. When he woke up, he found himself here, not knowing where he was. Paul demanded that the government come and rescue him as soon as possible. But the person on the other end of the line told him that he was in Ohio, and they couldn't help him at all. So Paul immediately thought of his family. But to his surprise, no one answered the phone at home. Even his wife had gone out without her mobile phone. He could only leave a message for his family, explaining that he was in a dangerous situation. Paul then thought of asking the FBI for help. After the call was connected, Paul quickly explained his current situation to them. He asked the FBI to track his phone to rescue him as soon as possible. However, the other end asked Paul a few irrelevant questions. They asked why they didn't shoot him and also asked for his social security number. Paul was very confused about this. Before the other side could finish speaking, the phone signal was lost. Fortunately, Paul managed to find the signal source by constantly adjusting his position and immediately called the company for help. The company had provided each employee with a safety number, but Paul didn't remember his. He was then transferred to voicemail. At this moment, Paul recalled the first call he made when he found the phone. When he called back, he found that it was the kidnapper. The kidnapper demanded that Paul hand over $5 million in ransom by 9 o'clock tonight. Otherwise, Paul would be buried alive down there. Paul had no choice but to call his good friend. With his help, Paul managed to get the government's phone number. When the government learned of this situation, they stated that they would not pay the ransom because the government would not compromise with any terrorists. This made Paul very confused. However, they said they would rescue Paul because they had already established a special hostage rescue team in the local area. They gave Paul the phone number of the team leader, Mike. Paul immediately dialed the past. Mike told Paul that they had already started to think of ways to rescue him and asked him not to worry too much. Hearing this, Paul's heart finally calmed down. But just then, the kidnapper's call came in again. To avoid arousing the kidnapper's suspicion, Paul quickly answered the phone. He explained to the kidnapper that the government wouldn't pay and stated that he was just an innocent civilian who came here only to work and earn money. After Paul's persistent pleading, the kidnappers reduced the ransom to $1 million. They asked Paul to shoot a ransom video, and the content was in the bag at his feet. Paul struggled to get the bag. Inside were 2 glow sticks, a flashlight, a small knife, and a piece of paper. The paper contained exactly what Paul was supposed to say in the ransom video. Clearly, the kidnappers knew the government